My name is Rebecca Taylor, and I'm 34 years old. For nearly 11 years, I thought I had built something solid, something real, with the man I married. I believed in loyalty, in working hard, in loving harder. I believed that if you gave people the best parts of yourself, they would protect them. I stopped believing that the night my husband's smartwatch lit up in the dark. It was supposed to be an ordinary evening, one of those quiet nights where nothing special happens and nothing hurts. After dinner, Tom drifted to the den to watch his shows. I stayed in the living room, flipping between the Spurs game and a list of chores I'd been too tired to tackle during the week. Roofing work isn't gentle. By the time I get home, my muscles hum like they're filled with static. Tom opened a bottle of wine, then a second. I saw him shuffling past the doorway with a glass in hand, cheeks flushed, eyes half glazed. Midnight came. The house fell into that strange stillness where even the fridge feels too loud. I went to check on him. He was knocked out on the couch, one arm dangling off the side, mouth parted, the TV still running. Two empty bottles stood on the coffee table like silent witnesses. I moved closer to switch off the TV and pull a blanket over him. That was when his smartwatch buzzed. A small notification flashed on the screen strapped to his wrist. Haha, I can't do that. My wife would knock 7 shades of crap out of me. I froze. It felt like the air around me changed temperature. My scalp prickled. My stomach twisted. I wasn't even sure why. That message could have been about anything, right? Friends joked like that all the time. But the tone wasn't right. Before I could talk myself out of it, I tapped the banner. The chat opened, and there she was. Kara. Not my friend. One of his. The woman everyone in their football group used to call jacket holder, because when fights broke out back in their teen years, she'd stand on the side holding everyone's coats. Not brave, not involved, just close enough to everything. Apparently, she'd gotten close enough to my husband, too. At first, the messages were surface-level flirting. Nothing you could pin anything on. A wink emoji here, a compliment there. Something you could argue about until the sun came up. But then I scrolled. The timestamps edged toward tonight, and the shift was undeniable. I saw my husband, the man who once cried when he lost his wedding ring at the gym, typing like a teenager with cheap thrills in mind. His messages blurred together in my memory, but the meaning lodged deep like a thorn. How he had always wondered about her, how no one would ever find out, how they could just see where the night goes. And then the line that gutted me. Don't worry, I'm great at keeping secrets. I couldn't breathe. My hand was still holding his wrist while I scrolled through evidence of him begging another woman for sex. Begging, not responding to her, not being seduced. He was the one reaching. I tried to scroll further, faster, anything. I didn't know his phone passcode. Funny, isn't it? You can share a bed, a life, bills, dreams, and still not know 4 digits that would tell you who someone really is. My vision blurred. I set his arm back down, careful not to wake him. I turned off the TV and stepped back, the room suddenly unfamiliar. I wasn't ready to confront him. I wasn't ready to hear lies said with a face I used to trust. In the kitchen, the clock glowed 12:17 a.m. I sat at the table, hands trembling, trying to breathe like a normal person. My eyes landed on a half-empty bottle of vodka left from a barbecue. I grabbed it, topped it off with Coke, and left the house. Behind our home is a stretch of woodland and a disused railway line that runs for miles. I used to walk it when I needed to clear my head. Tonight, I walked it because I couldn't stay inside that house without screaming. The cold bit harder with each step. The vodka burned on the way down. I kept replaying that message. I'm great at keeping secrets. I didn't know if that was the first secret or just the first one I caught. I reached the old railway bridge and slid down the embankment until I was sitting under the arch, knees tucked in, bottle dangling. If anyone saw me, they'd think I was some creature hiding from the world. In a way, I was. Above me, the steel of the bridge groaned in the wind. The night wrapped around me like a cold, wet blanket. I took another long drink and stared at nothing. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I felt hollow, like someone had scooped out everything warm inside me and replaced it with static. You always think betrayal will feel like a knife, sharp, immediate, bloody. But it doesn't. It feels like a slow unraveling, like you're watching the version of your life you believed in dissolve grain by grain. Maybe I should have gone home right then. Maybe I should have confronted him immediately, demanded explanations, demanded truth. But some truths don't need confirmation. Some truths speak for themselves. And this one had been buzzing on my husband's wrist. A train rumbled somewhere in the distance, the sound echoing through the metal. My breath came out in white bursts. If anyone had looked down from the bridge, they might have thought they saw smoke rising. And they'd be right. Something was burning inside me. Somewhere between my anger and the bitter taste of vodka, a single thought kept circling. How far down this rabbit hole do I even want to go? Because part of me already knew. This wasn't the end of the story. It was the beginning of the fall. By the time dawn started smudging the sky gray, I wasn't under the bridge anymore. I was sitting on a damp patch of grass a little farther up the railway line, staring at nothing with a half-empty vodka bottle next to me. I must have looked like a ghost someone forgot to bury. That's probably why the two dog walkers stopped. They were an older couple, early 50s maybe, walking two pudgy Labradors who trotted right up to me like I was a lost child. The man crouched a bit, cautious. "Are you all right, love?" I wanted to say yes. Instead, something between a laugh and a choke came out. The woman's face softened. "Worst thing you can do right now is drink," she said gently, nodding at the bottle. "It'll turn a bad night into carnage." Her words hit me harder than the vodka had. I didn't know why. Maybe because for the first time that night, someone looked at me like I mattered. Like I wasn't invisible. I tossed the bottle into a nearby bin. The woman smiled like she'd just saved me from falling off a cliff. I thanked them, brushed dirt off my jeans, and made my legs carry me back toward town. I didn't go home. I couldn't go home. Instead, I messaged my friend Dan, one of the few people I trusted without reservation. His reply came instantly. "Spare keys under the plant pot. Go in. Sleep. I'll be home after work." He lived 15 minutes away. I walked the whole way, numb, exhausted, holding myself together by the threads of habit and muscle memory. The spare key was exactly where he said it would be. His apartment smelled faintly of coffee and laundry detergent. Normal. Safe. I collapsed onto his couch and stared at the ceiling for what felt like hours before sleep finally dragged me under. When I woke up, the room was brighter. My phone was vibrating violently. 17 missed calls, 32 messages, all from Tom. Messages ranged from, "Where are you? Did you take the van? Why didn't you wake me? Are you okay? What's going on?" And the kicker, "Babe, please answer. I'm worried." I stared at that word, babe, until it lost all meaning. I typed back the simplest lie I could manage. "Engine trouble. Got a lift to work." He bought it within seconds. "Okay, let me know what's happening." I dropped the phone onto my chest and closed my eyes. There's a strange kind of cruelty in how quickly life carries on. Messages keep coming. Time keeps moving. People keep breathing. Even when your heart has stopped. Dan came home around 5. He walked through this door, saw me sitting exactly where he left me, and his face changed. Not shocked. Not confused. Concerned. "Bex, what happened?" Hearing my nickname cracked something in me. The whole story spilled out. The messages, the watch, the secrets, the bridge, the dog walkers. I told him everything, even the parts that made me feel pathetic. When I finished, he sat back, rubbed his jaw, and let out a slow breath. "Well, that's a lot," he said quietly. "But listen, don't confront him yet. Don't burn the house down in one night. Talk to a lawyer first. Figure out what your options are." I nodded, not because I wanted to be rational, but because I didn't trust myself not to be irrational. "Also," he added, "don't tell anyone about Kara for now. If she hears, she'll run straight to Tom and twist it. Keep your cards close." I swallowed hard. He was right. When I finally went home, I felt like I was walking toward a crime scene. The second I opened the door, Tom was there, waiting, pacing, practically vibrating with tension. "Rebecca, where the hell have you been?" His eyes were wild. "Are you okay? Why didn't you call me back? Your flask and lunch bag were still in the van. What's going on?" His voice wasn't angry. It was panicked. That made it worse. I could have lied. I could have played dumb. But exhaustion, real bone-deep exhaustion, has a way of stripping you bare. "There is something up," I said quietly. "When I carried your drunk ass to bed last night, your watch buzzed. I saw the message. I saw the whole conversation. I know everything." His face collapsed. Crossed arms, arched back. Self-assurance. All of it vanished in a blink. His lips parted. "Rebecca, I was drunk. I'd never actually..." I stepped back from him. "I'm great at keeping secrets, huh?" I repeated, tasting the words like poison. "Begging her for sex? Telling her you've always wanted her?" That broke him. He started crying, loud, messy, shaking sobs. He followed me down the hallway like a child trying to explain a broken toy. I was drunk, please, Bex. I was vulnerable. It didn't mean anything. She messaged me first. I swear I'd never touch her. I never meant. Every excuse in the book poured out of him. Except one. He never tried to blame me. Some tiny part of him knew that would have lit me like a match. I walked upstairs. He followed. I shut the bathroom door. He stood outside it, crying. I showered until the water ran cold. When I came out, he was sitting on the top stair, blotting his face with his sleeve. Rebecca, I'm so sorry. I want a divorce, I said. He went still. Cold. Silent. And you'll be sleeping in the spare room from now on. His mouth opened, but no sound came out. I stepped around him and went into our bedroom, closing the door gently behind me. That quiet click was the real ending of our marriage. The days that followed turned into emotional purgatory. Tom moved into the spare room. I stopped speaking to him entirely. The living room became no man's land. Neither of us dared step into it. Dinner didn't happen. Eye contact didn't happen. Even the air felt heavy, like grief had mass. I worked late every night to avoid existing under the same roof. He tried everything. Notes under the door, long texts, pathetic half-whispers of apology through the hallway air. I ignored all of it, at least until my mother entered the battlefield. She called me one night, frantic. Rebecca, your husband is devastated, she said before I even said hello. You need to talk to him. You've been together 11 years. You can't throw that away because of words. Words? I repeated, stunned. He didn't do anything, she insisted. It was a mistake, a lapse. You two need to sort this out like adults. You cannot just kick him out. I sat there staring at the wall, realizing something horrifying. My mother was taking his side. Not mine. Not the daughter she raised. Tom, the man who begged another woman for sex, had become the victim in her eyes. Mom, I said slowly, I'm not staying married to someone who did that. You're overreacting, she snapped softly. You've always been dramatic. Rebecca, don't ruin your life over one stupid night. I hung up. My hands trembled. It was the first moment I realized. My marriage wasn't the only relationship I was about to lose. By the time 3 weeks crawled past, the atmosphere in the house felt radioactive. You know that feeling when a storm hangs overhead but never breaks? That was us. 2 people living under one roof, but not one shared breath between us. Tom stayed in the spare room. I stayed everywhere except near him. Our conversations, if you could even call them that, were limited to one-word necessities. Keys, mail, move. But even silence can rot. I saw it every time he passed me in the hallway. The way he paused, just a fraction too long, like he was waiting for a miracle. As if one day I'd suddenly say, "Okay, I forgive you, let's pretend none of this ever happened." But the spell had been broken, and once a spell is broken, it's gone for good. I got a lawyer. The first appointment, it was strange. I sat across from a woman with sharp eyes, a calm voice, and a stack of forms thick enough to stun a hippo. She listened patiently as I explained everything. The texts, the betrayal, the house, my parents, Tom refusing to leave. She took notes, nodded slowly, then said, "We can file for divorce immediately, and you have every right to open your own bank account." That night, I transferred half the money from our shared account, exactly 50% down to the cent. Not revenge, not spite. Protection. Tom noticed it the next day. He came barreling into the kitchen, waving his phone like a lawyer in a bad courtroom drama. "Why did you take the money?" "It's mine," I said simply, "and I'm filing for divorce." His eyes filled with hurt, the kind that would have crushed me months ago. But now, it felt manipulative, practiced. He murmured, "I'll do anything, Bex. Anything to fix this. I swear to God, just tell me what you want." I looked at him. For the first time in weeks, really looked at him, and felt nothing. No anger, no love, no grief. Just emptiness. "I want the truth," I said quietly. "So prove it. Take a lie detector test." He blinked, startled. "Yeah, okay, anything." But 3 hours later, he came to me with a tablet in hand, open to articles about how polygraphs are inaccurate, how anxiety messes with readings. His voice shook as he read them aloud. I couldn't help it. I laughed. Not a normal laugh, not even a bitter one. A small, insane, startled giggle. Because in that moment, the truth was glowing around him like neon. He would do anything except tell the real truth. And then came Kara. I wasn't planning to confront her. I wasn't planning to see her at all. But word spreads fast in a small town. When I told a few close friends what Tom had done, the story leaked. Because people talk, and betrayal is juicy to those not drowning in it. Within days, Kara became the talk of the town. Someone even sent her screenshots of her own messages that Tom had sent me. She blocked me, blocked several people, vanished from the football group chat. If it had been a movie, she would have fled the country. But this was real life, so she just hid behind muted stories and private accounts. Meanwhile, my mother only made things worse. She began calling regularly, not to ask how I was, but to advocate for Tom. "Rebecca, he's lost without you," she'd plead. "You can't throw away 11 years. He's a good man who made a stupid mistake." Every conversation felt like sandpaper against a wound. Finally, during one particularly heated call, I snapped. "Why are you taking his side? What are you not telling me?" Silence. Then, softly, "I always wanted a son. Before you were born, I lost a baby boy. And when Tom came into your life, it felt like God was correcting something, giving me what I lost." My stomach dropped. "So you're choosing him over me?" I whispered. "No," she insisted. "But Rebecca, he has no family. If you kick him out, he'll have no one. He'll be alone during a pandemic. I can't let that happen." There it was, the truth behind the truth. My husband had betrayed me, and my mother wanted me to mother him. The real war began after that. The house, my parents' house, technically, turned into contested territory. Every day, I felt the walls closing in. Every night, I heard Tom crying in the spare room. Every morning, I woke up feeling farther away from myself. People comment all the time about how strong I am, how resilient, how tough. But I'll be honest, I was unraveling. Walking through that house felt like wading through poison, not because of the furniture, not because of the memories, because the person who once promised to love me was still sleeping under the same roof. And my own mother wanted it that way. I started fantasizing about escape. Not reconciliation, not revenge. Escape. Packing a single suitcase, walking out the front door, never looking back. Leaving the house, the marriage, the town, the memories. Leaving everything behind, except my sanity. But then another voice whispered, "Why am I the one who has to lose everything? Why did I have to leave my home? Why did I have to rebuild from ashes I didn't set on fire? Why did I have to sacrifice while the people who hurt me got comfort?" Anger like that changes you. It doesn't shout, it doesn't scream. It simmers, quiet, controlled, dangerous. And on the 31st night, after weeks of holding myself together with dental floss, I made a choice. A small one, a simple one, but the kind of choice that changes everything that comes after. I decided I would not be the one who walks away. If anyone had to start over, it would not be me. When the 31st night passed and the calendar ticked forward, something in me snapped cleanly into place. Quiet, unshakable, almost peaceful. If someone had asked me months earlier what betrayal looked like, I would have said screaming, throwing things, chaos. But betrayal is strangely silent. It doesn't explode. It erodes. By the time Tom stumbled downstairs one morning to make coffee, I already knew what I was going to do. I watched him from the dining room doorway, not with sadness, not with rage, but with the cold, steady calm of someone who has finally finished grieving. And the truth hit me. I didn't love him anymore, not even a little. I waited for my moment. A week later, I got my chance. Tom had an ophthalmologist appointment across town. He'd be gone for at least 3 hours. 3 hours was all I needed. I didn't hesitate. I didn't cry. I didn't leave a note. I simply moved. I packed the essentials: clothes, documents, tools, toothbrush, passport. I loaded everything into my van quickly, quietly, almost military-like. Years of working on rooftops had taught me how to move fast and make decisions under pressure. The entire house felt like it was holding its breath. Before leaving, I placed 2 things on the kitchen table. The house keys, the divorce papers my lawyer had prepared. They lay there side by side like a gravestone and a birth certificate, one ending, one beginning. Then I walked out, closed the door behind me, didn't look back. Not once. I blocked Tom and my mother. Before I even reached my friend Dan's street, I blocked their numbers. Clean, final, surgical. I didn't trust either of them to respect a boundary unless I built it from concrete and razor wire. Tom had forfeited his right to my life. My mother had forfeited it when she chose him over me. I wasn't angry. I was done. For a little while, Dan's place became sanctuary. I slept on his couch for a week, then another, then another. He didn't complain, didn't pry, didn't treat me like a burden. He just let me exist. And in return, I kept my promise. I was moving forward. I found a small place to rent. Nothing fancy, nothing sentimental. A safe space with blank walls, clean floors, no ghosts. I signed in the lease 3 days before Christmas. The irony wasn't lost on me. While everyone else was putting up lights, watching movies, baking cookies, I was unpacking boxes and assembling a bed in an empty room. but for the first time in months, I felt human. My mother didn't speak to me. My father barely did. The silence between us stretched into weeks, then months. The last conversation we'd had was a text exchange where I explained in brutal detail why what Tom had done shattered me. I wrote, "It wasn't the flirting, it was the intent, the secrets he was proud of, the way he begged another woman for what was supposed to be mine." My mother's response? "I can't speak to you when you're like this. Let's talk when you've cooled down." Spoiler, I didn't cool down. I froze. And once a daughter freezes toward her mother, it's very, very hard to thaw. Then one morning, months later, everything changed with a single call. I was at work, replacing shingles on a bungalow roof, when my phone buzzed, with a number I didn't recognize. I almost didn't pick up, but I did. "Rebecca," it was my father. His voice, it trembled. "Your mother's in the hospital." My hammer slipped from my hand and clattered across the roof tiles. "She's stable," he rushed to add, "but she fell hard. She wants to see you, badly." My heart twisted. Conflict, dread, guilt, anger, all tangled. Would you meet me at the hospital tonight?" he asked quietly. I didn't answer right away. I wasn't ready. Not for reconciliation, not for forgiveness, not for another round of being emotionally puppeteered. But ignoring him felt like crossing a line I couldn't uncross. "Okay," I finally said. I hung up and just sat there on the roof. The world suddenly too bright, too loud. The tar smell of shingles sharp in my nose. I was shaking. Was I making a mistake? Walking straight back into the mess I'd fought so hard to escape? All I could think about was Tom, my mother choosing him, the betrayal behind the betrayal. What if he was there? What if she ambushed me? What if this was another guilt trap disguised as compassion? But I knew something else too. If I didn't go, and something happened, I'd never forgive myself. I went. Driving to the hospital felt like walking into a burning building blindfolded. I arrived early. My father was waiting outside, hands tucked into his jacket, eyes tired. He stepped forward to hug me. I stepped back. "No," I said gently, "not yet." He nodded, swallowing disappointment like medicine. "Is Tom here?" My voice came out sharp. "No," he said quickly. "He's not. He doesn't know you're coming." Only then did I breathe again. Inside the ward, I saw her, my mother, and I nearly didn't recognize her. She looked like she'd been through a war. Her right eye was swollen and dark purple, bruises blooming across her cheek and temple. Her arm was wrapped in thick bandages. Her ribs were taped. Her skin looked pale, almost translucent. She blinked when she saw me. Then her face softened. "Rebecca, sweetheart." Her voice cracked. Something inside me cracked too, not in forgiveness, but in shock. She held out her uninjured hand. "I wasn't sure I'd ever see you again." I stood frozen for a moment before stepping closer. We talked about her fall, the hours she'd spent on the floor unable to get up, my father finding her, the fear she felt. And then she said, "I want to mend things between us." A flicker of hope, small and fragile, rose in my chest. But then she continued. "Tom's not doing well without you," she whispered. "He's still living in the house. He's so lost. You leaving destroyed him." My shoulders stiffened. "So he's still there," I said flatly. "Yes," she replied, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. "He has nowhere else to go. We couldn't just abandon him like that." Her words hit me like a slap. She wasn't apologizing for choosing him. She wasn't acknowledging my pain. She didn't understand anything. She just wanted the old version of life back, the one where she had her daughter and her son, her son-in-law, her substitute son. Not me. I left after less than an hour. At the door, I said, "If I want to reach out, I will, but don't wait by the phone." She nodded, but her eyes searched mine like she was begging me to return to who I used to be. On the walk out, my father asked quietly, "Can we keep talking? At least you and I?" I hesitated, then nodded. "Maybe, but no promises." That night, alone in my apartment, everything caught up with me. Sadness, anger, resentment, relief, guilt. Layers and layers of complicated emotions crashing over one another like storm waves. I lay awake thinking about Tom, too. Not with longing, but with a strange, haunted ache. The kind you feel when remembering someone who died, but is somehow still alive. The person I thought he was died the night I found those messages. Everything afterward has been grieving, but grief eventually has to end. I began therapy, a psychiatrist, phone calls, in-person sessions, slow, careful conversations that felt like learning to breathe again. One thing she told me stuck. Your best years aren't behind you. They're the ones you have left. I didn't understand it then. I think I do now. Because the past is gone. It doesn't exist except inside your mind. But the The future is clean and empty and full of new doors. One of those doors was New York. For as long as I could remember, I wanted to see it in autumn. Wanted to walk under the changing leaves, smell roasted chestnuts from street carts, watch the skyline turn gold. Tom hated flying. He kept me grounded. And now? Now I was free. So I made a promise to myself. I would see New York, alone or not, ready or not. This time, the only thing stopping me would be the sky. It wasn't until almost a full year after the night under the railway bridge that I fully understood how betrayal doesn't just end a relationship, it rearranges your entire inner map. A year is a strange length of time, long enough for people to forget what you went through. Short enough that you still remember every detail like it happened last week. By the time the anniversary of that night rolled around, the divorce was finally official. I was no longer Rebecca Taylor, married woman. I was Rebecca Taylor, survivor of a life I didn't choose. There's something brutally clean about a final decree being stamped and mailed, the last chain snapping, the last door closing. You expect to feel triumphant, or relieved, or furious, but mostly I felt weightless, untethered. Like the version of me who'd clung so tightly to that marriage had drifted off into some other dimension, and I was just the woman left behind. Then, by sheer cosmic cruelty, I saw Tom again. I was walking into a convenience store after visiting a friend when the door swung open and someone stepped out, and we froze. Both wearing masks, both startled. But a person can recognize the eyes they once loved. It was him, Tom. His eyes widened for a second. He mumbled something into his mask. Maybe my name, maybe nothing at all. We stared at each other for 3 seconds. 3 seconds that stretched like fate was holding its breath. Then he stepped aside, and I walked inside. No words, no closure, no drama. But the moment I passed aisle 3, I had to stop and grab the shelf to steady myself. The sadness came out of nowhere, raw, sharp, overwhelming. Not sadness for losing him, but sadness for losing the illusion of who he had been. You don't miss the cheater. You miss the person you thought they were. And that person didn't exist anymore, maybe never had. A week later, another truth found me. One that confirmed what my heart always knew. My friend's girlfriend pulled me aside during a gathering. She looked uncomfortable, shifting on her feet like someone carrying a secret too heavy to hold. She said, "Rebecca, I think I saw Tom a couple of years ago, outside a pub in the city, all over some girl." She explained she wasn't 100% sure it was him, so she never said anything. She was worried she'd cause a problem where there wasn't one. Except there had been a problem. A huge one. And maybe it had started long before the night I caught him. I didn't get angry at her. Just tired. Bone tired. Because in my heart, I already knew. Cheating isn't spontaneous, it's cultivated, practiced, rehearsed. The messages I saw weren't the first betrayal, just the first one I caught. My travel dream became real, then didn't, then almost did again. Dan and I had planned to go to New York in October. The travel ban between the UK and US was scheduled to lift in September. I kept checking flight prices, hotel deals, weather forecasts. I pictured the leaves in Central Park, the crisp air, the skyline at dusk. It felt like freedom. It felt like proof I wasn't trapped anymore. But then the pandemic shifted the rules again. The travel ban moved to November, and Dan couldn't get time off after October. So our trip stalled, paused, floated in limbo. If I wanted to go in the new year, I'd have to go alone. The old version of me would have panicked. The married version would have compromised. But the new me, I didn't need anyone to hold my passport for me. I still plan to go, even if it's alone, especially if it's alone. Meanwhile, my relationship with my parents didn't heal. Not really. My dad made efforts, small ones, gentle ones, texts here and there, phone calls checking if I was eating, sleeping, safe. My mother made none. She recovered physically from her fall, but emotionally, nothing changed. She still lived in the house where Tom was staying, still cooked for him, still treated him like a wounded son. Every time I thought about calling her, something clenched in my chest, a kind of numbness, a kind of cold. Not hatred, not forgiveness. Apathy. And apathy is harder to melt than ice. I once told my therapist, I don't know if I'll ever feel anything for her again. And she said, sometimes protecting yourself requires emotional distance. Not all bonds are meant to be repaired. I didn't want to believe that, but I felt the truth in it. The house? I didn't want it anymore. My parents offered once to talk about putting it in my name for security. But it was never about the house. It was about what happened inside its walls. And the truth is, I would rather sleep in a tent than go back to a place where my heart died inch by inch. Sometimes a home becomes a tomb, and sometimes walking away is the only resurrection you get. Then came the memory that changed everything inside me, a memory from long before the marriage fell apart. Earlier that year, I'd had a work accident. I'd brushed against a jagged metal bin and sliced the back of my leg open. Didn't even realize it until later. That night, I woke up feverish, dizzy, shivering uncontrollably. My body felt poisoned, my leg was pulsing with heat, and I knew instantly it could be sepsis. I called an ambulance. They said 2 hours due to COVID chaos. I lay on the floor, hyperventilating, convinced I might die. And then something weird happened. I accepted it, fully, peacefully. And once I accepted it, I wasn't scared anymore. Everything became clear. No what ifs, no spiraling, just stillness. That memory came back to me one night when I was thinking about Tom, about my mother, about betrayal, about everything. And I realized, letting go works the same way. You have to accept that what you had is dead. Only then does the fear disappear. Only then does clarity come. You stop fighting to resurrect the past. You finally see the present. You finally move forward. And so here I am, a year later, stronger than I was the day before the betrayal. Not bitter, not broken, not hopeful in some naive movie-ending way. Just stronger, and more myself than I've ever been. I no longer crave revenge. I no longer replay the texts. I no longer see Tom as the man who ruined me, but as the man who revealed me. He showed me what it looks like when loyalty is hollow. And in doing so, he showed me what real loyalty should feel like. He showed me what I will never tolerate again. My therapist once said, "Writing your story helps you stop living inside it." She was right. Every time I say these words out loud or write them down, I reclaim another piece of myself. So if you reading this need to hear one thing, let it be this. Don't stay with someone who stabbed you in the back. You're not obligated to bleed for anyone, and you deserve a future untainted by someone else's selfishness. I once said that betrayal made me feel like a worse person than I was yesterday. But standing here now, I was wrong. It made me a stronger one too.